Become a better personal trainer by becoming a better man. Become a better man by applying knowledge from others who've walked across the fire and have a thing or two to say about it. Listen to Joe as he delves into some of the greatest minds of the best coaches in the world, who bring inspiring stories and powerful insights to share about the human condition. Hear how the fitness industry goes only muscle deep, and how a new breed of trainers are using emotional and mindset hacks to improve as men, evolve their game, and make the competition irrelevant. Trigger your pathway to greater fulfillment. With us, stand in the face of fitness. Welcome to the Fit Man Collective.
Hi men, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Man Collective podcast. I'm Joe Hanney, your host and founder of the Fit Man Collective. This show is about helping people become better personal trainers by becoming better men. My goal is to help you redefine what fitness, family, and freedom ideally could mean. Today's show is extra special. We have a gentleman on the show that educates men on their style, clothing, and grooming to best complement them. Before I introduce you to Antonio, the founder of Real Men Real Style, let me just tell you that you can find all the show notes, transcripts, and resource links over at www.thefitmancollective.com. Just go ahead to the podcast page. Also, we're going to be continuing this conversation over in our closed Facebook group, which you can request to join if you go to www.facebook.com/groups/The Fit Man Collective. Now, with over 3,000 style courses, podcasts, episodes, articles, infographics, and videos, and the thousands of men he's helped, it's fair to say we have an absolute gem on the show today, discussing anything and everything to do with males, in particular personal trainers, fitness professionals, from their first impressions, influence, how to dress for your body type, what to avoid wearing, to even mindset shift for success. As you know, this show isn't just about your physical body and training in the gym. It is everything that I feel epitomizes the fit man. Antonio, welcome to the show. Glad you can join us. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, not a problem, Joe. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I want to talk to you about Real Men Real Style, with the focus mainly being on the stereotypical male personal trainer, gym owner. So I suppose there isn't a better way to kick off the show than just to get straight to the point. I want to know why personal trainers should be open to having more than just gym wear in their wardrobe. What's your overall opinion on personal trainers, both their style in and outside of the gym? Let's start.
Yeah. I mean, and it really just comes down to, do you want to be successful or do you not want to be? And, this is not, I'm going to say that if you are just getting started, I'm not going to say that caring about your personal image is the first thing that you need to change up. You first need to figure out what your business model is, how you're going to convert and get your first customer. But I would say that something early on you want to look at is, I need to come off as professional. I need to come off as competent, being able to do what you do. So Joe, if I were to look to hire you as a personal trainer and I go into your gym and let's just say that you are 50 pounds overweight, you're smoking a cigarette, and you're eating a hamburger from McDonald's, most people are going to look at those as probably red flags. That something is, they haven't spoken with you. You may have all the certifications. You may be the best in the world at what you do. But instantly, your whole credibility is in jeopardy, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Totally agree. Yes.
Yeah. And that's with style and with clothing. I'm not saying you need to wear a suit or a sports jacket. In fact, it's probably not what you want to wear. But it is something, should you maybe have a uniform? Because even though you're a company of one, you've got ambitions to be a company of 1,000. And you know that you're going to franchise this model. And this is just the beginning. And you want to be able to say, day one, I had a uniform. Because when I put that on, I knew I meant business. I was focused in on my company. There's tons of studies I could cite that go into not only how it's called enclothed cognition is the science of this. And it gets into not only how other people perceive us in a uniform or clothing, but how we perceive ourselves. And so it could just simply be a polo shirt, could be an athletic shirt that is the colors that you want to represent with your company. But it's something that it puts you in that state of mind. In the same way a football player, when he walks out on the field and he's pumped to go out there and perform. Now, he could be the best football player in the world, but if he's dressed like a ballerina and he just walked down, it's like it changes. Like, he's just not going to feel confident. He may be able to run just as fast, but he's not going to feel like he can. It's like he just feels conscious of what he's wearing. Does he smell? As a personal trainer, you are going through 8 to 10 clients when you're getting started a day. And by the time that you're at that 10th client, are you kind of worried that you are giving off this ripe odor? Women are very sensitive to this. And if you've got a high net worth individual woman who doesn't know that you've had 9 workouts before this, she's just, oh my gosh, this guy stinks. I can't work with him anymore. She's not going to tell you that. She just won't show up next time.
Yeah, and there's a few great points there, and it's not just about the style, as you mentioned. It could, because if we're talking of that early personal trainer, as you quite rightly said, they could be wearing a uniform of another company to begin with if they're working at a gym, right? So I suppose it can come down to grooming, and as you quite rightly said, and just smaller, minute detail that a trainer might not take in consideration: grooming, odor. How they present themselves, first impressions, which you quite rightly said. So don't always come down to what they actually wear, does it?
Yeah. I mean, and I'm just thinking, and what's great is so many people, if you're listening to this podcast, you're already ahead of most people because they're not even thinking about this. This isn't something, again, it's not going to get you a whole lot of sales. Just because you dress professionally, people aren't going to come running into the gym, but they will. Oh, this guy looks like he works here. This guy looks, I was just at my gym the other day and I go to the local YMCA, but our trainers are supposed to wear, I couldn't actually tell if this person worked here or if they were a trainer. I was uncertain, and I don't want to embarrass myself, but I'm in the market for a personal trainer. Yes. And it was something I couldn't identify who was a personal trainer there. And just simply, sending that message out instantly conveys that trust. And, there's so much I could go into. To me, credibility is always so key. If a naked man walks into a crowd room and yells, "Fire, everyone get out," what do we think? He's just crazy. He's naked. If a guy wearing a fireman suit says, "Everyone get out of here," do we question him? No. Instant authority. A doctor, the white jacket in the United States, at least. I know not throughout the rest of the world, but a doctor, and what's funny is smart people. There's a forum I follow. It's called Kevin MD. It's only for doctors, but somehow I got into it. And I always love following these because I feel like I'm kind of spying on doctors and what they think. They argue over the white jacket and what they're called all the time. And so many people will say, I should not be, like, who cares about the white jacket? The patient should only care about my competency. Well, you know what? The patient doesn't. The patient is a human being and we make split decisions. And they're less likely to argue with a doctor if they come off as competent, as he or she just simply looks like the doctor. So if you look like the trainer, you look like you know what you're doing and you're talking about, they're not going to question your workouts, and they're more likely to go along. They're not going to ask, well, what certifications do you have? I was reading this on the internet. Maybe I should only doing 6 reps, not 8 reps. Mm-hmm. You want this person to take action and to believe what you're talking about because you've spent all that time and money on your education. You want to look the part.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And it's, again, going back to the detail, and it's a combination of the smaller things, not just about the qualifications and how good you are with that particular person. But I was of similar value to what you were saying there, where it's just looking for the slight edge, even if that means just with your style, with that your mannerism, the way that you come across in terms of that first impression. I think it's all vitally important. And just to hit home this point here, I suppose if we flip it onto the trainer's client and how they dress when they first come to that trainer, because they're lacking confidence, uncertainty, their self-worth is pretty low, they dress are completely different to the person that's probably going to lose 2 to 3 dress sizes, right?
Yeah. When somebody has a body they're proud of, you want to be able to show it off. You want to look strong. You want to look competent. And this goes across industries. So if you're in consulting or you're a banker or you work in construction, we all want, when we look at somebody who's in great shape, we think that they're healthy, that they're fit, that they would be a good partner, partly simply because they're going to be around. But this person doesn't look like they're going to die of diabetes. Or, this guy just looks like he could have your back in a fight, which many of us translate to like, I just simply, and it's one of the reasons we give healthy people the halo effect, the whole halo thing. Thorndike, this came out of 1920s research. It was the idea that certain people, because they come off as the ideal, as attractive, we simply give them the benefit of the doubt. When you look and you've got the packaging of an ideal trainer, they give you the benefit of the doubt that you are the ideal trainer. Now, you could screw that up by not knowing what you're talking about, but you at least started off on the right foot, but versus starting off on the wrong foot, which is, not to then say, oh, you're the trainer? I thought you were just, I couldn't tell by that 20 t-shirt and all this other stuff.
Yeah, that's totally true. And I've come across many trainers that, as you quite rightly said, don't represent what you want in a trainer, especially if you are looking to hire somebody to help you get into shape, become healthy, etc. It's a great point. I like to flip the script slightly. I don't really want to be putting the focus so much on personal trainers just yet, but let's flip the script. And what can the actual client of the trainer learn from the trainer about possibly grooming or styling? Do you have any examples or any advice there?
You mean in the sense of what would the trainer want to teach them, or what can the client infer about the trainer in a sense? Like, can you clarify the question just a second, just a little bit more?
Yeah, certainly, because I've seen many articles and doing research for this show, and the one article that really kept appearing was how a client could learn grooming and styling techniques from their trainer. That makes sense? So I suppose it's coming back down to a trainer that's probably got high standards already, got a very good habit, so they naturally just bleed in or bleed over to the client's perspective mindset on a very subconscious level, should we say.
Yeah, I think that picking up on little things like attention to detail, that he cares. This guy is meticulously groomed. I'm looking, I see a video right now of you have facial hair, and bearded men connect with other bearded men. It's just something they kind of like give each other a nod. So you can have those deeper forms of connection. Maybe you've got a mustache. You've got one of those handlebar mustaches that you take care of. And it's fun. And you target men and you come off as like the Joe Sullivan 1920s type of trainer. And it may be you special in kettlebells. So all of that kind of works together. You're kind of into the retro scene and you find that, you start talking about this and you form deeper bonds of trust, which makes sales incredibly easy once somebody starts to pick up and trust you. There was a guy I spoke with earlier today. He thought it was going to take 30 minutes to convince me to use his service, but I was already sold within the first 30 seconds because the 3 examples of people he's working with are personal good friends of mine. So instantly it was trust. I like what he's doing. I kind of knew that this was going to be, and he didn't realize it, was like, wow, the call went from 30 minutes to 3 minutes because I was sold, and because I simply trusted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, great answer. So what are the common style and grooming mistakes that most personal trainers make, both inside, but I also would like to know outside of the gym? Because the reason why I'm asking the question around outside of the gym, because as trainers, we get very narrow-minded and we have back-to-back sessions, especially in the early stage, before we learn how to systemize and become a little bit more efficient and productive with our time. But outside the gym, they can be just as influential, right? Rather than just wearing gym wear. So
and outside the gym, I would say, that's where, let's say you're a trainer and you focus in on high net worth individuals. So when you're there at it, the first mistake, just to take a step back, is that they don't care. You've got to have emotion. You've got to understand that this does matter. Whenever I go outside of my house and I'm not dressed appropriately, I'm conscious of it. And I live in the rural Wisconsin. There's really no one that's going to see me, but I'm still thinking like, should I maybe dress a little bit better? Should I present a better, image? But, that's something that if they're not thinking about that and controlling their image, then that's the first thing they have to understand, that it does matter, that it can make a huge difference. And they don't have to take my word for it. They should experiment for themselves. Mm-hmm. Don't be so hard-headed thinking that that you're right on everything and going with what society tells us is that style and image doesn't matter. Well, they also say that it doesn't matter, you should accept your body for what it is. And if personal trainers, we work with people who they don't want to accept that the fact that they're 100 pounds overweight. They realize that if they just accepted that as their body type, they'd be dead early and they won't see their kids graduate from school. There are, and the same thing with style. Yeah, you can dress however you want, and there is no law against this. But if you targeted high net worth individuals and I see you outside the gym and you're still wearing those gym clothes, just sitting there having a latte at the coffee shop, now if it was a uniform, perhaps yes, then maybe you're sending a message. But if you were to dress up a bit more, let's take that example of that guy that's big into retro style. I don't know, he's into what is it? Punk, steampunk and things like that. And that's his hobby. He gets into it. Well, guess what? Other people are going to say, I really like it. That's awesome that you've got so much confidence. It's like, tell me more about what you do. Or other people may, I guess if you're in the steampunk, maybe you're not targeting high net worth individuals, but let's say you targeted that type of crowd. Instantly they connect with you. They start the conversation and I did notice that, that clothing fits you really well, that you've got an awesome bod. That makes sense that you're a personal trainer. That's the kind of stuff when you can control your image and message outside of the gym, all of a sudden you find that opportunity starts to approach you. And it depends on what type of tribe you want to approach. You want people approaching you. But I would think that if you have people paying you money to use your services, which is, I think a lot of your audience, they target these type of individuals. You want to dress like them because suits trust suits. Men in sports jacket trust men in sports jacket, or a woman, you actually maybe you target women. You want to come off as a professional. Again, it's looking competent and them saying, wow, like you obviously you must own your company. And yes, you own your one person shop, but they don't know that. You could say, yeah, I've been doing this for 5 years. We've had a lot of success working with this, and you look like the success which you talk about.
And some great points there, and I like the association and mirroring what other people, your clients, would potentially be wearing. And I suppose from a confidence point of view as well, and going back to that, it's vitally important for the trainer working on their confidence, their own assurance, and their stance in the role to present. And I believe it's one way of many that can differentiate themselves from the other trainers, especially when it's such an overcrowded marketplace as it is. What differentiates one trainer to the other? Because we all offer the same thing, which is exercise and nutrition. Sometimes the style and the way that you look and the way that you come across, influential, persuasive, however you want to categorize it, is important. So great points there. Any other common mistakes that trainers make when they're...
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a good point about confidence. And a trainer, what's the first thing you notice when you bring somebody into a gym that hasn't been in the gym? What are some of the things you notice about that individual?
Baggy clothes, head down, body language, kind of subdued.
All right, so they're not confident, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And why not? Because is it because these machines or these free weights are going to jump and attack them?
Not necessarily. Maybe intimidating, but it's predominantly to the person, isn't it?
And they don't even know they don't even know where to start, right? They've never practiced lifting weights. This is someone, I mean, he sees a bench press, but he's like, well, where do I hold it on the bar? How, where should I be seated? I mean, he just has these basic questions. But after they've been to the gym 5-10 times, what do you notice about that person? They come in, they're a lot more confident, right?
They are, yes.
Yeah, and they actually know how to do this stuff. So the same thing with the trainer. The first time you start to wear nicer clothing or change up your style, you're going to feel conscious. Understand, but just being uncomfortable is not the same as actually, comfort and actually being. It takes a while. You got to practice. It's because it becomes much more comfortable, and it's familiar and comfort. It's you're just not familiar with it, and that not being familiar with it makes it uncomfortable to you. But it starts to after a few times. I mean, for me, wearing a shirt like this is just my go-to. A dark. Anyone that follows my channel, my video knows I love dark navy button-up shirts. It's just so easy for me, and I have 4 young kids. I can get stains on them. I can cover it up. It works with dark jeans. I like it. Gives me a very monochromatic look. I can throw on a light-colored blazer. It'll work. It's just very interchangeable. But I've practiced wearing this so many times. It's just become part of my uniform, part of who I am. And that's what they've got to figure out. What is their go-to look? What is their uniform? Set that up, practice wearing it, become comfortable. And the next thing you know, you start to feel odd when you're not dressed as that. And then it's become a habit that it's a good habit to have.
Mm-hmm. And as in you saying that, and a hairdresser comes to mind, funny enough, back home in the UK. And when we're associating a particular person with their brand, their style, their company, he's of the gentleman cut 1920s. So his salon's called Flappers and Gentlemen. And when I see Blake, he just represents that brand in the way that he dresses. His moustache, as you quite rightly said, right on at the beginning of the conversation. So yeah, it all.
I like how you know his name. He's memorable, even though maybe he's not for everybody. He's referable. He's memorable, and that's better than being forgotten and another just dime a dozen. Because all of a sudden, the person you speak with may not be the type of a client for him, but it's like, gosh, I met this trainer, because when they hear somebody else at a party say, I'm looking for the best trainer in my area, somebody that like really understands how to the image and look, feel like I spoke with this guy, like I got his, his name was Mike, and it was just it all plays with your brand, and the image we present is just part of our brand, and it sometimes enables us to charge double to triple what our competition is. I mean, for me personally, I'm looking for the best trainer in Wausau. Like, price isn't that big of a deal. Like, it's like I want someone that's gonna, hold me accountable, kick my ass to show up to the gym. And also someone I can trust that's up to date on. I mean, there's a lot of trainers around here, but I don't feel like they're well read, or that they know it. I would be scared to actually follow some of their workouts because I would hurt myself. Yeah. I would pay extra money for someone that specializes in men over the age of 40 who are former athletes but aren't back in, they haven't exercised for. I mean, someone that specializes that specific. It's like you would just pay more for.
Of course. Of course. And going back to the style, I suppose to consider also is dressing for the occasion, right? Especially as the trainers starting to progress and they are becoming a lot more influential, and they're probably going outside those 4 walls of the gym and networking. I know for me, it made sense, and I learned by doing, and that was turn up to a networking event, which was mainly for business owners. And I was in my typical personal trainer uniform, even though it's professional, tidy, etc. I just felt out of place and didn't feel that I could connect as well as if I turned up the next week in a suit of some sort to look like a business owner. And I don't know if it's any coincidence, but upon changing the way that I dress just for that particular occasion, I instantly got a client, another business owner, which then referred 2 to 3 other business owners, So what you're saying is very important. So we do have to consider the occasion as well. Yeah.
You just have to think through it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with if you're going to a networking event and you have a uniform and you think that that's going to help you stand out because everyone else is going to be wearing a suit and suits aren't required. Maybe it's a lawyer's networking event and you just got invited. Well, you're not a lawyer, so you don't have to dress like one. And maybe you're going to wear a bright red button-down shirt that's got your company's logo. Well, you know what? If you are confident and you own it, you are going to stand out. People will wonder, who's the guy in the red? And you can definitely use that to your advantage. But if you're just not at that point where you're confident or you don't have a uniform like that, and you can fit in and dress like the others, and then that can then allow you to just individually target people that you want to sell to and feel more confident. So there isn't a right path. There is the path that hey, this is the image and the presentation I want to give, and this is the direction I want to go. Perfect.
Great answer. And just going back to the trainer, and my question next, and I really want to put this out there before people take this question wrongly, is what should personal trainers avoid wearing in the gym? A pet hate of mine is, especially if we have to consider that they're client, right? Especially if it is an overweight client that's been struggling for 20 plus years, in an unhappy marriage, confidence is very low. I don't feel they're going to be so connected to the trainer that's probably in a tight fitted vest, revealing too much flesh, not covering up his skin too much. I feel that's a put off for the potential client, which if that trainer is looking to attract that client, it's a disadvantage for them. Is there any other things that trainers should avoid from your experience and exposure to trainers? I know that you're fairly experienced in that way.
Yeah, for some people, I would almost go the opposite of what you just said, because it's like sometimes they look at where they could go, and that gives them like, they just, I like to look at my trainer because that is the body I want. This guy has it, and I'm cool. It's awesome to be around him. So I don't know how you would ask the client, maybe just straight up asking them or letting them know, hey, like, I just want to make sure that, how does this, are you comfortable with the way I present myself and the way that I look here? It's going to be, the one thing I'm going back to is just making sure that they're not wearing clothing, which is going to send that negative signal of that they're not the competent individual. So, I mean, we already talked about the ratty clothing, anything that's stained, anything that's dirty, anything that retains odor, anything that, maybe is going to get in the way. I would think that a lot of people listening to you would not be wearing really loose clothing that could ever get caught up. If they're, just starting off, they want to, think of safety. I always talk about the fit of the clothing needs to be solid because it actually gives you more functionality and more room of movement. Mm-hmm. Maybe getting back to, I think maybe where we talked about training, what they should not wear outside or how they should dress into the gym. Once they leave the gym, if there's not a reason to wear your uniform, then do you really need to be wearing it? In the military, I was in the Marine Corps, and the rules we had in the Marine Corps was that you could not wear your uniform off base, in the sense of like you could drive home, but you were not, if you had an event to go to, you were not supposed to wear your uniform at that event. Now, you were always supposed to dress professionally. Now, the Army, I think, and some other units, they've got it a little bit different. They allow people to wear their uniforms to and around events. But again, what I like to think of is if you're treating your business this professionally, then you always want to be thinking that you represent the company, you represent what you stand for almost at all times. So the clothing that you choose to wear outside, this is stuff that, again, you want to make sure it's tailored to fit you, especially if you've got a lot of guys probably in your audience, the men especially, they've got a drop. So their chest is going to be much larger than their waist area. And this comes into a lot of issues with clothing, one of the hardest body types to fit, because everything is made out there for a drop maybe of about 4 inches or even less, because a lot of men, they have the square shape or they've got weight material in and around the midsection. So for a lot of guys that have a very defined physique, they're going to want to find higher end specialty brands which specialize in men that have more fit physiques. So a lot of Italian brands, a lot of, unfortunately for, guys that maybe don't have much money, this is tough, but you have to find it on sale, is go out there and find these higher end brands that make for less people, but it's going to fit closer to your body type. Then you won't have to spend as much money getting things tailored or adjusted, but you still should get them tailored or adjusted, because what you want to do is show off that body that you spend so much time working on, that clearly shows you are the professional, that you know how to get a body into shape, starting with your own.
And great point. And that kind of leads on to my next question. How do trainers actually dress for their body shape? I know from watching some of your videos on YouTube, and you have many great advice out there, how if you don't dress correctly, a trainer, because of their shape, it can look out of proportion, right? Especially with their choice of trousers, shoes, and obviously their blazer. And I like the fact that you hit home on, maybe the best suggestion is to have it tailored to fit your body so it shows on.
Yeah, that's the first thing, is know the name of your tailor. The other thing is just to think about proportion. This doesn't really become an issue for thinner guys. So if you've got maybe more the Bruce Lee type of physique, not so much of an issue. But if you are a bodybuilder, or you definitely are heavy, understand that that's not a natural, it definitely is not the natural way the human body looks. And what you want to avoid there is looking like a cartoon character, coming off as the guy that just looks it's almost comical. Yeah, no one's going to say it to your face, because you probably, crush them or something. But the point is, is it's like, well, that it just comes off as intimidating. And so you can play that down by wearing clothing that covers up a bit of the drop. I know a lot of guys were like, I worked hard for this body, I want to show it off. And for me, it's just not going to that extreme point where you look just really outside of the norm. There was a University of California at Irvine study, and they talked about what do people find attractive. And what we find attractive across societies is what is the norm in our society. And I'm not saying, here in the United States, we have an obesity epidemic, so I'm not saying that you need to look like that norm, but I would say, you don't want to overemphasize the extremes. So again, the best thing you can do is have a tailor. Then find next to that, find brands which are going to work and fit for your physique. So when it comes to jeans, a lot of guys they want to have room in the thighs. They do a lot of squats, but they have to wait those jeans in, get them brought in on the waist. I have a friend, he loves diesel jeans. He's big into squatting, and they work for him in the thigh area. He gets them brought in and around the waist. He goes off and he buys about 3 to 4 pairs, by the way, because another thing is to buy in batches. When you find something that works, what you don't want to do is spend another year trying to find it again when you need it. So, find what I've got probably 15 shirts that are similar to this one because it works for me and it's a go-to shirt. So nothing wrong with some of your staples, like a good pair of fitted jeans, getting 3 to 4 pairs, getting them all adjusted to fit and just rotating through those. But if you want to upgrade, one thing to look at is custom clothing. There's so many options, especially when it comes to shirts and trousers, when you can just buy, there's guys over in Thailand, over in Hong Kong. I've got many I refer to over on my website that I've actually been to their shops, had tea with these guys. But for pennies on the dollar, you'd be surprised, for $100, you can get an amazing pair of trousers, and these are almost dress slack, very comfortable. They're going to be made to fit your body for $50 to $75, custom made shirts. And again, you want to give yourself a bit of room because you don't want it skin tight here, and you're going to have, but you can get something that actually fits your body and looks great.
Mm-hmm. Great advice. Great point there as well about the particular body shapes from the Bruce Lee style to the more bodybuilding person that isn't natural. And I suppose clothing companies don't take that type of body shape into consideration as much as the norm, as you said. So we have to work around that.
There are certain brands. Look for them. I mean, I found certain T-shirt companies. They actually will have more of a drop, and it may seem like a small difference, an extra 1 inch in the drop, but it makes a big difference how it hangs and looks on your body.
Oh, great point, great advice. The next question really came from, again, going back to an early point of considering the trainer's client who comes into the gym for the first time, lacking confidence, slightly overweight. That's going to be a completely different person to when they're in shape and achieve their goals. And with our clients, what I had as an extra service when they got to that final stage where their goals were achieved, we'd actually, as a way of rewarding them for their successes, hire a personal stylist for that client, because things are going to change. Because their mindset probably still hasn't shifted from the person that came to me for the first time. Even though their body's changed, their mindset's still with that old version of themselves. So they may even go shopping or still avoid it. But if they do go shopping, they're still shopping for the bigger sizes, believe it or not. So there's obviously a psychological element here. So the question really is why should a personal trainer get styling advice? Why can't they just go into a shop and, well, they can. There's no right or wrong way of doing this. But I've always felt that hiring a professional to give me advice, just like in any industry or any challenge or anything that I wanted to become better in, it made sense in my head. But why would a personal trainer seek out styling advice from somebody like yourself or a local person?
Yeah, well, it's not right for everybody. And many people are, they're self-starters, and they can simply go study, learn the information, and go out there and make the right decision for them. They're going to spend a lot of time, though, getting up to speed. And some people enjoy this. That is great. I've got, tons, over 800 free videos, like 2,400 free articles, 100 infographics. And if you're excited to go through those thousands of pieces of information, that is great. Do it. other people, their time is really valuable. And you see this with a lot of professionals. Actually, lawyers are one of the best ones because they charge people by the hour. They know what their hourly rate is. So they look at it like, okay, I'm charging $150, $250 an hour, and it's going to take me, 20 hours to build a wardrobe. Like, I would rather just free up that time and just simply hire someone to come in and do that. So there are image consultants and stuff that do that kind of stuff. For me, I choose to put out scalable information that arms guys with the knowledge in some of my courses. But it really comes down to about that first part about the mindset. They've got to realize you just put in hundreds of hours and you spent, months changing your diet. You went through a lot of pain, adversity to have this body that and why not show this to the world, your accomplishment? Why are you hiding it like in this tent of clothing that, if a big wind came up would catch air and you'd fly off? So things like that. And a lot of, you won't be able to fit in a lot of the same clothing. If you've got someone that loses, 30, 40 pounds, they almost have to size down on everything. Mm-hmm. If they lose more than that, 50 to 70 pounds, they're sizing 2 to 3 sizes down. Yeah. And all of a sudden they're realizing, they've always worn loose clothing because it was the only thing that could drape over their body. Now you can actually wear clothing that fits you, and you find that you've got more freedom of movement, and you're able to show off the fact that, I've actually got, my chest is larger than my stomach, which for many guys, this is the first time this has happened.
Yeah, and it's a huge mindset shift, as you said, from that person that initially came to the person that they've become. My questions just escaped me. It will come back to me in a moment. But that mindset shift is vitally important for overall confidence, right? And to be able to dress correctly and dress differently to the person that you were before is huge. There it is. My point is I suppose the mindset shift comes back down to the mindset shift, because by having to dress for the new body shape, you're kind of confirming that you're no longer that person from the past. And it may be that you possibly give those clothes away that was slightly larger for you to charity, whatever it might well be. But the best thing you can possibly do is go out and buy some new clothes or invest in some.
Yeah, I like it. I like to hear when people set this up as a reward, that it's something that they are going to reward themselves. I have a friend, he does this. I complimented on his watch the other day, and he shared a secret with me. This guy, not even in the style industry at all. His name's Tracy. He owns a company called Wishlist Member, very successful company. And so Tracy's saying, Antonio, I actually have a new watch that I bought for myself, and it sits on my desk in the box. And until I complete this project, I can't touch the watch, but it sits there and I see it every day. And maybe you go buy yourself a gift certificate to your favorite menswear store, or your favorite, I know we have some, a lot of women listeners probably too, maybe it's to your particular, I trying to think of, let me think, what are some of my wife's favorite stores? Victoria's Secret or something. Whatever it is, you could see, you're like, I have given myself a gift of $500. That's a lot of money. But I am going to guilt-free in 6 months or in 3 months. That sits there. It's covered in tape, and it sits there. As soon as I get to this weight goal, that is mine. And every day you sit down and you see that like half a day of shopping stress-free, it's a reminder. It could be smaller too. Maybe you set that up in monthly goals, which would probably be healthier and better. But you gamify that system so that, it's something there that at the end is waiting for you. And I find that that's a pretty powerful trigger to get people to take action.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Which kind of brings me on to one of my final questions, which kind of I'd hope would summarize this whole show of ours. And in your experience, just to really hammer home our point, what is the overall impact that styling image can personally have for the trainer and also their business? Just to really summarize everything that we've said really today.
It really comes down to where the trainer is at and where their business is at. If they're just starting off, the impact is more of, it's harder to measure from a return on investment point of view, but it's more of like the mental impact. It's them telling themselves when they look in the mirror that they're a professional, that they're taking this seriously, that they're not going to work all day in their pajamas or in their workout gear, because today they're not going to see clients. Today's is simply a lead day. They got to do the work, which doesn't feel good sometimes, to actually be engaging and following up with clients, trying to close those sales. Well, today they dress like a salesman. They've got on their tie, they've got on their button-down shirt, because today is all about business. It's not about, jumping on YouTube and watching cat videos. And so it's the psychological effect. But for the business owner that maybe he's got 100 employees, he's got a gym, he's got 5 gyms in the city, he's very successful. It's about him actually sending the signal and setting the example of what he expects. One of my favorite entrepreneurs is Walt Disney. And he talks about, and I did this at my conference as well. I don't just tell people. If I tell people to empty the trash, that's one thing. But when I tell them to empty the trash or to go pick up trash, and I start picking it up myself and I own the conference, it's like people immediately, they have a fire lit under the backside. Wait, sorry, boss. It's like, we've got this. But they know it's not below me. And if I want people in my company to come off as professional, to dress professional, I got to lead by example. And that's what that guy is getting from this.
That's a great point to finish on, and I completely agree. And when you were saying that, it reminded me of the time on a Monday, for whatever reason, I would purposely not have clients booked in on that day. It would be more working on the business rather than in it, but putting some kind of shirt on, trousers, just made me feel like actually I'm a business owner, even if it's for that day. Yeah. But it really set me up differently for how I would approach my day. Exactly like you said. It's a great point.
Well, it's role playing. If you dressed up, do you like Star Wars?
I'm not a big fan, but I watch it.
Oh my gosh! Okay, well, for any of our listeners, what's your favorite show? Do you have any type of shows you're into, or any type of movies, science fiction, or anything?
Action movies, anything that's probably got Denzel Washington in it, or even Mark Wahlberg right now.
Yeah, so Mark Wahlberg, depending on how he dresses up or what character he plays, he actually has different images and outfits and things they wear. I mean, there's a difference between old Dirk Diggler and or actually maybe the Daddy's Home and the Dirk Diggler character. Both of those actually probably were similar in that they were bad boys. It was all about their body. It was so that we're seeing a lot of flesh in that type of but. With the some of the other characters he played, maybe like tough cops or something like that, he's got an image and he's got clothing that actually puts him into that role. I think actors, especially actors that wear certain clothing. I was going to use the Star Wars and the Jedi and the Sith example, because the clothing that they wear is actually it puts them in the mood. It's the reflection in the whole Star Wars thing. The Sith wear darker clothing. The Jedi wear lighter colored clothing. And you think about that, the good guy wears light colors, the bad guy wears dark colors. And it does have an effect on us. So if you understand that, getting back to the first point we talked about in clothed cognition, the way that we dress, if you're hanging out just in your pair of shorts and no shirt on and you're there just working on your computer, you're not going to have, in my opinion, as productive of a work day over time as you would if you showed up, dressed like the professional, showered, shaved, cleaned up, and ready to hit the business day and put in a good 8 to 10 hours to get your business going.
Great point. And it just reminded me there was actually a Star Wars run in Singapore, and there was both light side and dark side. And it was, I don't think it was any coincidence that people that chose to go on the light side or dark side, they started to act that way as well. So
exactly.
Makes a point. So just to bring the show to an end, Antonio, is there anything that's possibly crossed your mind that we haven't discussed that you really want to throw out there to the trainers to help their, because I know you're very big on their mindset shift and working with them individually, males in particular, that would give off even more value to listeners than what they've already got?
I would just say, you need to go experiment and test this stuff for yourself, because I talked about that earlier, but you may think this is a bunch of BS. And that is, who was it? Mark Twain said that it's not what we don't know that's dangerous, is what we think we know that's dangerous, because we make these basic assumptions when we first start off. And we've always believed, well, honestly, people are going to come to me because I'm good. I'm just that good. They can't ignore me. Yes, to an extent. Because if you are naked and you're good, you're still not, unless you're in a nudist colony, you're just not going to get a lot of clients. You know, they're going to go off running. I mean, it's maybe you're nice to look at, but they're not going to engage with you for the business. So clothing does have an effect, and use it to your advantage. That's what I want to get across.
Great point. And even if it's just a slight mindset shift in transitioning from a technician, the personal trainer that does all the hands-on stuff, to becoming a business owner.
Yeah, it's all about the mindset. It's about making that shift, and that has to happen for each individual. It's not ever something that I can do for them. They have to do it themselves.
Yeah, great point. And just for the listeners, Antonio, where can they find out more about yourself? Any website that we can send them to? Anything that you've got going on right now?
Yep. Just type in Real Men, Real Style. You'll find us. We've got YouTube channel with 100 million views. We've got tons of other infographics, over 2,000 articles. Tons. I've got a free app. We've got a podcast as well. So tons of great information.
Perfect. Thank you for your time, Antonio. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome, Joe.
Thank you very much. What an highly enjoyable, informative show that was. Thank you once again to Antonio. Just a reminder that we'll be continuing this conversation over in our Fitman Collective Facebook group, which you can find by visiting www.facebook.com/groups/The Fitman Collective. And again, all the show notes and links can be found at www.thefitmancollective.com. Men, I look forward to speaking to you next week, but until then, strive to become fitter men both inside and outside of the gym.
Thank you for listening to the Fitman Collective podcast. This is your life. Don't settle for mediocre. Don't settle for average. Don't even settle for great. Beware the average man who attracts an average companion. Beware the great man who believes they've achieved everything and appears just a little too comfortable. Don't be them. Become the patient wolf. The Fitman Collective is waiting for you. Know yourself. With us, reinvent yourself and your place in this world. Body, mind, health, relationships, career, money, all of it, and more. We can never be caught. We can never be categorized. The Fitman Collective reinvents the future of the Fit Pro. The Fit Man makes his own fate. Join us at thefitmancollective.com.